Hi, I'm Jason Khalipa, and welcome to another episode of the AMRAP Mentality Podcast, a show we interview interesting people about how they make the most out of every single minute. On today's episode is Brooke Wells. Now, a lot of you probably have heard of her from her CrossFit Games career. She came onto the scene at a young age, and she's been dominant ever since. But she isn't just a CrossFit Games athlete. We talk about a number of different things about how she balanced going to school and also competing, how she's graduated and now became an entrepreneur with different sponsorship opportunities, and how she's developing her own brand. What was probably most impressive to me about our conversation is that at such a young age, or even as she gets older, her mindset is so powerful. She talks about her morning rituals. She talks about positive self-talk. And I was just blown away by her tenacity, her drive, her willingness to sacrifice to get to where she wants to go. I truly hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did. Before we get started, just want to let you know, if you haven't checked out my new book, As Many Reps as Possible, it's available on Amazon. It's also available on Kindle, and it's also now available on audiobook. So make sure you check that out. Would really appreciate that support. And if you like this podcast, please take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, tag Brooke and I, and let everybody else know. So guys, without any further conversation on this, let's dive into a phenomenal episode with Brooke Wells. All right, so Brooke, here we are. We're at Wadapalooza. I really want to thank you for taking the time today. I heard you had a line that was like a mile long for a picture, but you broke it, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm sure we'll get back to the event. But I just want to say, I've been looking forward to talking with you for a long time because I want to know a little bit more about your background, where you came from. I think you came onto the scene with like such force, but there really hasn't been that much background that I feel like about who you are, where you come from, and what it was like growing up.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll start like way back. You got into CrossFit when you were 16 years old.
Yeah.
So what got you into CrossFit? Why CrossFit at such a young age? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I was a gymnast for a really long time. And then once we parted from gymnastics, we just went to track. And I mean, training for gymnastics took 4 hours a day. And then going to track, we were training like 1 hour a day. And so it just kind of wasn't enough. And at this age, we were 16 years old. And so we went to my dad and we're like, can we get a gym membership? And people my age just would go to the gym and socialize.
Yeah.
It was like the thing to do.
Well, you don't even go to the gym. Yeah.
It was just social hour. And my parents knew that. My dad was a personal trainer for a really long time. And he was like, I've done a few CrossFit classes. Like, why don't you guys try CrossFit classes? And we honestly wanted nothing to do with that at first. We're like, no, we just like want a gym membership. That's where all of our friends go. So he was like, you get CrossFit or nothing. So we started doing CrossFit to get better at track. We fell in love with CrossFit during elements, though. We just didn't really give it a chance at first.
And this was when you were a freshman in high school?
I think I was a sophomore.
Or sophomore?
Yeah.
And so how long did you compete in gymnastics? And then, I'd like to take a side note for a minute and say, when you say we, you're talking about you and
twin
your sister, your twin sister. And so how early on did you guys start doing gymnastics?
We were gymnasts from I'd say like probably 3 or 4 years old. And then we quit freshman year of high school. And then we quit right in time to start track like our freshman year. And then we started running, me and my sister. And then she ended up taking a college scholarship. And I just continued doing CrossFit. So
again, backing up a little bit with the gymnastics, did you guys compete?
Yeah. So I was actually always the better gymnast. And so then we started running track. I mean, me and my sister have competed like everything, literally. And it was funny when we started doing CrossFit. It was like we would get jealous of if Sydney beat me in a workout. I wasn't really specifically mad that she beat me in the workout, but I felt like she got more reps in. So then I'm like, I feel cheated.
More work.
Yeah, I want to get the same
later
amount
on
of work.
after you were done, you went ahead and got a few extra
I would like go
sets.
sneak some reps in real quick. But yeah, it's really cool. I think that's where I get most of my competitiveness from, is just having a twin sister growing up. People are always comparing us, like who's better at this. It's most of the time a joke, but we don't take it as a joke.
Yeah.
So I think that's what kind of like started building up how competitive we both are. So I was a better gymnast, and then we started track. Sydney was the better at track.
And what did you run in track?
I did the 300-meter hurdles.
The 300-meter hurdles. Mm-hmm. Okay, very cool.
That was like my main one, and then also did like the 4x400 and the 4x1.
And so now, when you're in high school and you're training CrossFit, talk to me a little bit more about this competition between you and your sister, because I think from the outside looking in, you're both girls, you're both competitive, but from my perspective, just what I've seen, it seems like you guys have a great relationship.
Yeah.
And so how are you able to bridge the gap between being sisters, always being compared to each other, whether that be in looks or in athleticism, but yet still have such a great bond? I mean, what did they do? Were they athletic? What did they do in the house to kind of create this bond? I'm just curious, because that's really special in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I can't really like specifically think of anything that like my parents did to kind of help it, but like my dad they were kind of like forcing gymnastics on us, and so we didn't really like it. And so I think we kind of like came together and we're like, we both hate this. Like, we're still going to try to be like the best that we can be, but like we did not enjoy it at all. But our family was just so strict on like, you have to be doing some kind of sport. So then once we finished gymnastics, all you had to do in track was like run.
Yeah.
So we're like, I guess we can do track because that's like the easiest one to jump into. So that's why we just started track. And
but your parents basically they encouraged you to always be in some type of sport.
Yeah, it was pretty much mandatory.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you found CrossFit, you're at this gym, and you and your sister are both doing it together. At what age did you figure this out? Because you competed your first CrossFit Games at 19. Mm-hmm. So I imagine, were you a freshman in college?
I was a sophomore.
In college. And so can you tell me a little bit about as you kind of came up in CrossFit, when did you start realizing that was something you actually were pretty good at and might be able to kind of pursue the CrossFit Games side? I mean, because you were really young. I mean, 16 is really young.
Yeah. I did my first competition. I did it scaled and ended up winning. And then I don't know, from there on, it just kind of like built a fire in me that I like wanted to be good at this. And then I think another thing was that my twin sister was better at track.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had a better CrossFit natural ability. And so I'm like, okay, you go do your thing with track. I'm going to do my thing with CrossFit. And it was just kind of like, that kind of was like where we split. And we're like, this is what we each need to be doing. We need to stop competing against each other and like just start competing against ourselves. And
that's really cool. And so did that, after you guys made that kind of pivot, did your relationship change at all, or was it already still strong?
I feel like we were always like super competitive, and it was like a friendly way. But once we did that, I feel like we supported each other more. Yeah. Like now I want Sydney to like be the fastest runner ever. I'm not trying to beat her at running,
right?
You know?
Of course.
Yeah.
And so you get into your competitions as you're getting older. And what was that process like, being at 19, going to your first CrossFit Games? What was the deeper reason that you chose to pursue that path? Like, you sound very competitive from a very young age, but I mean, I assume there was something else. Like, what drew you to going to the games and wanting to put yourself in so much pain while you were still pursuing a degree in business? I mean, I'm really curious on that.
So it's actually crazy how like making my first games was. I went on a team when I was a freshman in college, and we ended up getting like 5th place, and that was back when like the top 3 went.
Yeah.
And so then the next year I decided to go individually and went to regionals, and my mindset was just, I'm just going to come here to get some experience for like the future.
Right.
And I couldn't even fathom making the games like that year or the next 3 years. It was like the future.
Right.
So I went 2015, my first regionals. I was 19, and I ended up winning the region. And so then like when I made the games, most people were like, I mean, I was so happy, but I was like, oh crap. Like,
right. And so what was that like? I mean,
because
I remember that, and it was 2015, and I was going to the games on a team, and I remember you winning and being like, I wonder who she is, right? In my head, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you're 19 years old, you're in college, you qualify for the CrossFit Games. You don't just qualify, you actually win your regional, which was a challenging regional as it is.
Yeah.
So what was that? So how did the pressure shift before? So you go into regionals, you're basically just, you're another person in the stack, right? Now you win. how did that change? How did that pressure change going into the games? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, of course, once you win something like that, you feel like you don't want people to think it's a fluke.
Right.
And so I think the pressure was like something huge. I definitely felt that. But I just tried to like stay focused on like what I was doing before. I'm like, I won the region doing what I was doing. And so like as much as even my dad tried to convince me to quit school, he's like, you need to just focus on, yeah. He's like, this is something that's like here right now. There's always school that you can go back to. And so he wanted me to like put all my focus into just competing the CrossFit Games. But I was like, I've done school before. Like, I can do it all. It just required a bunch of discipline, and I grew up really fast. I really, really, really learned time management, like maximizing every minute.
Well, I'd love to dive into that. I mean, here you are. You're a sophomore in college. You've now qualified. And at the games, what year did you take that? What place did you take that year?
16th.
16, which is a great accomplishment. I mean, that's a huge finish.
Mm-hmm.
And so talk to me a little bit about what your day looked like then and how has that then shifted till today? Because now I would refer to you as a professional athlete. You came out of college, you graduated, and you're training full-time to win the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
Or other events. When you were in college, when you were going to your first CrossFit Games, what did your schedule look like? What was
it's been such a game changer being out of school. I remember, I mean, this was just last year. I was waking up. So I had classes from about 9 to noon. And so I'd always try to fit in a training session before that. So I would do like my aerobic piece, like either go on a run, go to the track, go swimming, whatever. And then go to class 9 to 12.
Yep.
And then that would be like what you call my recovery. Like instead of like sitting at home eating a meal or something, I was sitting in class. And I mean, that is draining and exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, you're using your brain. I mean, well, you should be. I mean, you're trying to learn. Yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, I would just go home, eat lunch, and go back to the gym for 4 to 5 hours. Come home, eat dinner, and then study and do it all over again.
Now, when you finished the games that year, was there any thought in your head like, hey, you know, maybe I can't continue this process. This is a lot of work that I need to put in both areas. I don't know if I could balance school and be able to do this. Or was it always like, hey, I could do both. I need to get through this?
Honestly, it was always, I just want to keep doing this. I think the thing that suffered the most that I had to realize was like my social life.
Yeah. So I'd love to dive into that.
Yeah.
As you're going through college, I mean, here you're going to college. Most people think about college as like, hey, I'm going to go out on the weekends with my friends, maybe even during the week. You know, frat parties, whatever it is, sorority parties. And I assume you missed out on a lot of that.
Yeah, I did. I always just think about like, this is going to be fun in the short term, but think about the long term. I mean, like going to this party, yeah, it's going to be fun for a night, but then this could like mess up training for a couple days. And then that's going to mess up going to the games again in the long run. So just like short-term fun for like long-term benefits is like what I just always had to keep reminding myself.
So in college, you weren't really the typical party goer, huh?
No, I mean, I definitely had some fun sometimes, but it was just I had to pick my nights very wisely. I mean, I definitely had to miss a ton of stuff. And like just things like my friends love to do, like, let's have wine night. I'm like, I'll come, but I'm not drinking wine. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's really challenging because you need to make a lot of sacrifices to go to the CrossFit Games and to be good at school. But I mean, that's something that, you know, I assume looking back on it, I assume you probably don't have any regrets about that.
No, I truly don't.
Yeah. I think
I thought maybe one day I'll look back on this and be like, I wish I would have lived like the true college experience, like going out every night. But I mean, that did nothing for them. I've been to the games 4 times now at 19 years old.
Yeah. So talk to me about that because now you're 23 and you graduate from school.
Yeah.
And when most people are graduating from school, they're looking for, you know, traditional career paths, right? Maybe they're becoming, I don't know, whatever, sales oriented, focused, finance, who knows? Now you came out of college and have you been working at a gym as well? Or have you been coaching there? No. So you came out of college now and you are a full-time professional CrossFit Games athlete generating your livelihood from sponsorships and events.
Yeah, I think that is by far the coolest like time frame that this has ever paid off is like being around my friends and especially like watching my sister try to find a job. Like she hated her first job and like just seeing how stressed out she was and like how hard that was on her to find something that she loved. And then there's me that I get out of college and I'm like, well, I've been doing the same. I've already been working for 4 years.
Yeah, that's wow.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get back to the sponsorships in a little bit, but I want to talk about the CrossFit Games for a little bit. When you're training, when you're getting ready for the CrossFit Games and you're going out before an event or you're about to go out to the CrossFit Games and you don't know what you're going to get into, you're young. Mm-hmm. What were you telling yourself? What type of mantras did you have? Did you have any self-talk? Did you see any what were things that you did that you felt like gave you the edge or gave you a better position to be successful when you went to the CrossFit Games?
Just like little things, like I would tell myself, like, this is what you train for. Like, this is what like all the work goes into. And this is what, like, that's why I do it, is for this moment. I remind myself of that a lot. And then, I mean, just like little things like mid-workout when things get hard, I'm like, this is where it counts. Like, this is where it matters. Just always trying to have like a positive mindset. I really, like, for example, talking about like the marathon row when that was announced.
Yeah. It's a long time.
Everyone was freaking out.
Yeah.
And like, I truly did not give in to any of that. I'm like, what is that going to do? Freaking out is not going to do anything. We're all in the same boat, literally.
Yeah, you're literally, you're all rowing for a long ass time. And so, you know, at the CrossFit Games, have you had any like events that just stand out in your head as something where, you know, you could specifically see the work you put in and you were able to watch that be executed on the floor? I mean, was there an event that you maybe struggled at before you came up with some type of plan and you were able to go out there and execute? I mean, is there an event that just kind of, to you, just is above all else?
Yeah. So actually the one that really stands out is the obstacle course last year.
Yeah.
The year before I took 38th place.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So second to last. And then this last year we had it with a vest on, whatever. And I think, I can't exactly remember, but I think I got like 7th or something.
Yeah.
But that was like one of the workouts that I was most terrified for. But throughout the year, I had just been working on getting more athletic. Yeah. Which is something that's really hard to work on. Yeah.
Some people just have it, you know, a lot more, you know.
I would, like, if you would have asked me, I would always considered myself super athletic until the obstacle course came. And I'm like, what the heck? Yeah. Maybe I have some work to do.
I had a similar experience years ago at Camp Pendleton. But I want to talk about, you were terrified, right? So when I hear terrified, you know, I visualize something in my head. But when you heard this event come out again, what types of things went through your head that you were terrified, and then how'd you overcome that and be able to place better? Because I'm curious about your mindset, because you're young and you've been successful at this sport, and it intrigues me.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that I had practiced that a lot, so that helped. Just like reminding myself that I have done this so many times, and like this is the time that it matters. Like I need to use what I've been working on and like make it happen. But I mean, I was terrified. Like there's no like other thing to it. I was scared to do it, but I just kind of just take deep breaths, calm myself down. I don't really have like a specific like words that I tell myself. It's just that like I can do this. Yeah. And so I want to ask you, now that the events have changed, the CrossFit Games, is that changing your training at all? Because prior you had the Open, the regionals, and the games. Now you have these sanctioned events, things of that nature. But you know what I found fascinating is that I messaged you and I said, hey, do you want to co-coach a class with me this week at Wadapalooza? And you said to me, hey, I have a lot of different priorities and I don't think I can make that time commitment. And I was super appreciative of that. I really was, because you knew when to say no and when you could say yes and things of that nature. But you were specific that, hey, I have training to get done and I need to get it done. So can you talk to me a little bit about how your work ethic is just so ingrained that you create this structure, you create this schedule, or Ben or whoever your coach is doing that, and you're just dead set on accomplishing that task? Like, where does that come from, and how does that shift throughout the season now? I mean, it's really cool. I mean, like, I think I'm really thankful to have Ben, and like, I think just having a coach, keeping you reliable is super important. I mean, I have to get that stuff done, and so it's honestly on my mind until I get it done. Like little things, like I did a workout at 3:30 and I couldn't stop thinking about it around 1 until I get it completed. So it's just like, it's almost like a guilt. Like until I get this done, I'm just like feeling guilty. Like I need to do it right now and I can't truly relax until all my stuff is done. And I don't really know where that's from, but I just don't feel myself until I get everything done. but that's kind of like how my work ethic is. I love to work hard, and I don't want to cut any corners. Like, I'm here in Miami, and I could be enjoying the weather and just like enjoying the competition, but I know that there's more important things to do, like get training done, and then I can go to the competition.
Absolutely. And so did that carry over into school as well?
Yeah, I think like I feel like all my discipline and like work ethic has come from having to balance school and training, because I figured out like if I didn't wake up at 7 a.m. to get my workout done, then I wasn't going to get it done for the day. And then I would just feel guilty. And like, it's a long process. And
so what I'm hearing is that when you're in school, it actually developed a lot of great skills because you had to learn how to get it done, get in, get out. Now that you're done with school and you have more time.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's going to be harder for you? Like, do you think it's going to be harder for you not to stay so structured? And you think, would you recommend to people to have different things going on?
Yeah, for sure. It was super weird. So like, I graduated in May, and then the games ended in August. And so there was like, I was in off season for about 2 months. And that part of my life was really weird because I didn't have school, didn't have training really. I mean, I did a little bit, but I kind of like felt like a loser because all my friends are stressing about like what their job is and everything. And I'm just like kind of chilling. Like I didn't really have any obligations or anything. Wait, what were we talking about?
We were talking about your different obligations and how it then transfers over into other things.
Okay.
Like, and now that you're done with your career, right?
I have so much more time now.
Yeah, you have so much more time.
And I think that it's little things like being able to sleep longer. I'm in bed every night by like 8:30, and then I wake up at 8. And then I go to the gym at 10. So like I really like long mornings. I wake up and kind of have like a morning ritual. I read a devotional book, and then I read a chapter of like a mental toughness book, and then I write notes over it. So that kind of like starts my day off really good. I'm in like a good mental state, super motivated, just go train. And that's something that I didn't have when I did school. So that's kind of what I replaced it with, is like reading and journaling.
And that's a morning routine that you do every day?
Yeah, every single day.
And like a daily stoic, is that like a type of book that you're talking about? Like
right now it's Chop Wood, Carry Water.
Okay.
It's just a book. Ben gave it to me. It's
Chop Wood, Carry Water. I get it.
It's literally the best book. I actually have already read it. This is my 3rd time to read it.
Okay.
I like read it the first time, then I underlined what's important, and now I'm like writing everything down because it's just so good, and just getting like good positive thoughts through your head is so important in the sport.
I love that. And so a lot of people, when you're looking at like a CrossFit competitor, they have a few different things going on sometimes, right? For you, you've created this quote business because you're generating revenue, but it's still involved with CrossFit. And so my question to you is, in school, you identify with yourself as a undergraduate, and then now you graduated. Do you at times think that do you have a challenge that now that you've graduated, now you're only into CrossFit, do you have a challenge you identify only as a professional CrossFit athlete, or do you identify outside of that? Like if CrossFit went away, like what do you give yourself, what do you identify as your I guess my better way to put it is, how do you balance the pressure of CrossFit with recognizing that doesn't define who you are is a better question.
Yeah, I get what you're saying exactly. Because it's like if people ask me what my job is, I'm like a professional athlete.
Right.
But without that, okay. So I think that if there weren't CrossFit, that I would obviously like come up with, that's why I got my degree. It's like my business degree, because it's something that I can fall back on when I'm done with CrossFit. If I don't like love doing CrossFit every day, like I'm going to stop and I'm going to use my business degree. Like that's what it's for. I think like I definitely would never want it to be defined by CrossFit, but it's something that I do love. And so it's just like, that's why it's such a big part of my life. Yeah.
And I think it's really cool because you started so young, you got into it with no idea of fortune or social media, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And you got in love with it early on. And so now you might have this social media following. You might be generating money from these sponsors, but that doesn't define why you got into it or who the reasons.
Exactly.
Which is,
like,
I think is really cool.
The thing is about followers and stuff, like I could care less about the following number. It's more like, oh, if I have more followers, then that's going to help my business side. I mean, I love my fans, of course, but it doesn't mean like I don't look at my followers and feel like I'm famous or a celebrity. Like when people refer to me like, how does it feel to be a celebrity? I'm like, I'm not a celebrity. Like I'm good at what, like CrossFit. Like I'm good at my sport and I'm passionate about it.
So as you qualify for the games, have, accomplished some success and gotten, quote, famous, have people treated you differently? Like people at your school, anything like that? Has anything like that came up?
Yeah. I mean, like my friends, no, they just kind of like joke about it. Like, oh, you're famous now. Like, how does it feel? But I mean, so this is what I say, like, this is kind of the hard part of like dating, because like, I don't want to date someone that like just wants to hang out and date me because of my following. Yeah. So I get questions about like dating all the time, and I'm like, I've finally figured out why it's so weird, is because I'm not going to date like a fanboy or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
and I imagine identifying the difference is challenging because you want someone, I assume, that's into fitness, but you don't want them to be, well.
Exactly. Like I want you to like working out, but I don't want you to know who I am. And I don't even know if I want you to do CrossFit, because that just gets competitive sometimes. Yeah. So it's like, it's complicated. So moving forward for the next, I don't know, year or two, you graduate from school, you're killing the game right now. What's on the horizon for you? I mean, what's your next big goal? What's your next focus? I mean, it's just going to the games again. I'm gonna do the Open in February. Yep. And so that's kind of like, that's the new way to qualify now. So that's like, I guess, I mean, me and Ben haven't really like talked about this, but I'm gonna have to be like in much better shape for the Open than I have in the past. So just getting ready for that, and then hopefully I qualify for the games out of that. Yeah, and then you have time to prepare for it, and you get into the games. And so, after the games, you got many more years to come. From a sponsorship opportunities, I'm sure they continue to come at you. I do have one final note on that. How do you determine what brands you want to align with and which ones you don't? Because I imagine for someone listening right now, they think, oh, maybe this person throws money at her or whatever. Yeah. But I imagine it's deeper than that for you. So how do you determine who you want to be with for the next years to come? Yeah, one of my least favorite questions are like, so do you actually like that stuff? Yeah. Or do you actually use it? No, like the biggest part of being a sponsored athlete is like, I have to truly love the stuff and then like love the company. I like them to be like, I just like to see where they're going to. I don't know. It's just, I have to love the product and like truly believe in the company. And I don't just get paid money and just say something that I don't think is true. I love that. I agree. Yeah. I agree fully. Well, hey, I got to tell you, Brooke, I mean, I'm really grateful you took the time. I know we got to go back to Wadapalooza. Yep. I really appreciate the insight you offered. If there was one piece of advice for someone listening and they want to get into the CrossFit sport and you had to give it to them, I mean, at a young age, you got into it. What's the type of advice you would give them if they're trying to go to the CrossFit Games, they're trying to compete? I mean, like, honestly, for me, it's like age doesn't matter. I remember after qualifying for my first games, people were saying, like, how does it feel competing against Elizabeth Akinwale? Because she was like 35 or something. How does it feel that they have so much more experience than you? Like, you just don't think about that. Just do the best that you can and don't worry about anyone else. Yeah. Stay focused on yourself. Well, if anybody wants any more information on you, they want to follow you, they want to know what your website, whatever, where can they find you at? At Brooke Wells with 2 S's on the Wells. 2 S's on the Wells. Nothing else is available. No problem. They can find you on what? Instagram, Twitter? Yeah, where? It's all the same. Okay. Yeah, and I have a Twitter too. All right. Well, let's go back over to the event, and thanks again for taking the time. Yeah, thanks for having me. All right, have a good day. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode with Brooke. I know that I did. I am very confident that she's going to go on to do some amazing things, and I can't wait to watch her continue to thrive. If you guys please can, share this episode. Let us know what you think. Leave us a rating. Leave us a review. And I hope you have a great day. Looking forward to catching you guys again next week for another podcast episode.